welcome everybody to the Freedom to Speak Easy podcast, where there is no prohibition on the First Amendment. And with me always, Mark Rizzoli, Anthony Diamarin, and we have what we would call Roxbury Part 2.
Yeah, Part 2. We first episode we covered, what Chris and Christina, how they found the books and everything. And now we're gonna get right into the content of the book.
Specifics, yeah.
Hi, ladies. Thanks for being back.
Hi, how are you?
Thank you for having us.
Good. So let's get into the books now. I mean, feel free. Which book you like to speak about first, and the content of it.
I'll take Let's Talk About It, because that's in my opinion, the most outrageous. That's the book that has, I think, almost every sex act you can imagine. It's fully laid out there in photos, including insert and how to insert butt plugs. But I also, something that keeps coming up for us on the opposing side is, well, some of these books have merit outside of those photos. And what they're not understanding is, before I even found the books, I kind of did a deep dive into this whole transgender push on our children. So in Let's Talk About It, as an example, they have a photo of, I don't know whether it's a biological male or a female, but it's someone with breasts and a penis. And that's not even correct, because if you've done any research into what those surgeries look like, it sure as hell is not
Am I
that.
allowed to hold these up?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, there are no double mastectomy scars on the photos for any of the girls that go through that. And to have a neophallus created involves taking a flap of skin off of your arm or your thigh and sewing it with very visible scars under a belly button. It looks nothing like a penis. So this book is so dangerous, because even if a child is questioning their gender, that's not what it's going to look like if you go ahead with all this.
Right.
It seems like the book's more to confuse children. Well, first, it shouldn't even be in a library.
Right. Listen, it confuses me.
We could ask, what's the educational value to this book?
Right.
It seems it's all about grooming.
And before that, I just want to reiterate. I want to let the audience know that these are the books now that you guys had questioned about, and really there's a lawsuit now against you guys for really inquiring about what the hell these books doing in the library, correct?
Right. And the reality is, the only purpose of having these books serve is to sexualize children. Yeah. Literally to sexualize them, to teach them verbatim how to engage in every possible sex act under the sun. I want to be clear about that, because looking at these
graphics, right? I'd say it's child abuse.
Yeah, these are pornographic.
I'm sorry, repeat that.
We've sat in a room countless amount of times with educators who are trying to philosophically argue why there is some literary merit to these books. Oh, well, there's still some merit even with that content. It doesn't matter. If you have a pedophile who still volunteers in the community, do you say, you know what, let's leave him in the community because he does some good too?
Right,
no.
Right. It is, and that's a good point too. I mean, remember, if you guys remember, I'm sure you do, the whole idea of now, little boy, you could go into a girl's bathroom if you're an adult male. The universal bathroom situation that we had, and they're in sports arenas now, and so on and so forth. I mean, they're waiting for a disaster to happen here. I mean, it is. There's no benefit to this for them to do that, except targeting kids and sexualizing kids. And they all need mental health checks, man. All of them need mental health checks. Every single one.
And that's what's happening is and people, the minute you say something like that, because we've gotten into it on social media about that topic, opposite sex being allowed into locker rooms and bathrooms, and the immediate push from the opposition is, well, why are you saying that all transgender people are violent? And that's not what anybody's saying. What common sense tells you is that this opens the door for predators. And what's happening right now is not all just genuine gender dysphoria. It's fetishists and all kinds of predatory behavior that is used.
They see a weakness, they see an opening, these predators in the system. They're going to utilize it. But you know, what I mean, it's crazy.
Well, listen, as we all know, most pedophiles, well, most of them always commit another offense.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, this is just given.
I mean,
This is basically validating a pedophile's, whole existence by the fact that this is now in the schools,
it's
in the
crazy.
library and everything. It's just unbelievable.
You know, and it's
Well, I have a question. Did the superintendent of the school, did he explain what the educational value of this book is? Let's talk about it.
She didn't. And when we Oprah'd the emails, so initially when we brought this to administrators' attention, it was in August of 2022. We then contacted the librarian via email, and Christina, being the true research one behind all of this in the beginning, said, we really need to Oprah these emails because we need to see what's going on, the exchanges. And what we did find is that at some point, the superintendent said, like, whoa, maybe we need to pull these off the shelves and review them. And there was some pushback, and then it never happened. So those books still remain on the shelves to this day.
right.
And
Yeah, go ahead.
no, and I was just going to say, to highlight one of the other books, I think that parents really need to see and hear this to understand the magnitude of how inappropriate they are. Because we've argued, and it's literally like banging your head against the wall with people on the other side saying, well, our kids should have the right to access this material. Who are you to say that my kids shouldn't be able to go to the library and see this book? And I want to speak to any parent that thinks that I'm going to talk about, it's called This Book is Gay.
Mm-hmm.
There is a page called Doing the Sex. It talks about handies as one of the most important skills to master. It talks about a good quote unquote handy, a bad handy. It talks about men enjoying their blowjobs served different ways, just that like they like their breakfast eggs served different ways. So I have to tell you, as a licensed mental health clinician in the state of New Jersey who specializes in children and families, I've worked with kids that have been sexually abused. This desensitizes them. Kids are supposed to feel uncomfortable when talking about sexualized topics at a young age like this. And when you start to normalize talking about blowjobs and handies and the best way to grip somebody's penis in school, there is absolutely no child that will go unaffected by that.
We're looking at this right now. These are what they are. They are almost like comic-like, the most graphic. Mark, what did you say? The most graphic, disgusting. I mean, the fact, if I gave up this book to a child, hey, here you go, to a kid, and they took it home, there should be police at my door, asking why they, asking a lot of questions. But what they're doing now is they're legalizing this, I believe, criminal activity. This is disgusting. It is absolutely disgusting that kids can have their hands on this stuff. Absolutely incredible, man. I don't even know what to say.
I once arrested a guy who was overlooking a splash park for children for standing there masturbating. What's the difference, right?
I don't know.
ladies?
In this case, he would have precedent now.
Right. He
would have precedent.
He'd probably be released on, ROR.
Unbelievable.
This is just unbelievable.
And it's so interesting that they, again, as Kristen had mentioned, they use, and I mean that exactly as I'm saying it, they use the LGBT community for this. And I have to give him a shout out. I communicate often with Gays Against Groomers, and I'm going to give a shout out to Michael from there, who has been such a huge support to us. They contacted the district, and the district didn't respond. They tried to say, like, don't do this in our name. We're not looking for this.
Right. I was going to say that there has to be other. The LGBT can't be the only group that speaks for every single gay or lesbian out there.
Well,
they can't.
I have to tell you, I was contacted by a retired New York City cop. Mm-hmm. She's gay, and she's so outraged about it. Come on, show.
Yeah.
But you're 100% right. There's people out there, but unfortunately, the media won't cover the gay
No.
people who are against it.
Right, right,
I mean, they're literally calling Gays Against Groomers an anti-gay organization at this point. It doesn't get
There's
crazier.
sick
than that.
people there, I'm telling you.
Christine, right? Isn't that the thing? When you can't win the debate with facts, you got to go to name call.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
When the
And
debate is
that's-
lost, you know.
And that's exactly what's happening here. There's virtue signaling. The
Right.
reality is that no child should be minimized. Their identity should not be minimized to sex and kink. These
Right.
books literally teach them. It says toys, dildos, vibrators, and strap-ons all fulfill purpose.
Well,
It's
Christian,
why
can I
is
get
it
your opinion on this? Someone who you obviously you treated victims of sexual abuse. Would you say desensitizing a child to this would make he or she hesitate to reporting an incident?
absolutely, because they would it normalizes it. So if
Right.
school officials are putting material in kids' hands, whether you're 13, 14, 15, 16, and teaching them that this is all normal for their age. And again, it desensitizes them. So when we say that, it cuts down that gut response. We teach kids from an early age to trust their gut, and that's what keeps them safe.
Yep.
If we teach them that this is normal and to ignore that uncomfortable feeling they get in their gut when an adult starts talking about sex, then when that adult predator comes into their lives and starts talking about sex, they ignore their gut because they're like, well, I was told this was okay.
I always say your gut is your greatest instinct. I always do. You know, trust your gut. You know, it's funny. You know, when I was a kid, I would if we saw something, a comic book or something like that, whether it was like, you know, the karate. I remember it was the Karate Kid was a big one. It was a book. It wasn't necessarily the Karate Kid, but it was our karate. We would then read it and then like go outside and reenact what we saw in the comic stuff. And I'm very curious now. You know, these kids now see this stuff. Are they going to be prone now to act out these type of behaviors, these type of incidents?
And it's happening. It's happening already. So there's I'm not going to mention because it's a current case going on, but there were two little boys in an elementary school in a nearby town. And a little girl walked in. This is elementary school. I believe it was 3rd grade. Walked into the bathroom and saw two little boys performing oral sex on one another. So it's happening, and it's outrageous. And you're not hearing about that on the news because they're hiding it. They're covering that up.
Well, that's what they want. I mean, I think we can all agree this is exactly what they want to happen by having this material in schools.
They want chaos.
I mean, they want grooming. Listen, you don't have to respond to this. I'm going to say it, and I've been saying it. The Garden State Equality, they're just using the schools as an opportunity for recruitment, for grooming, for confusing children. I mean, the fact that non-educators are involved with writing material tells you what you need to know. Evil Phil Murphy has sold access to his office because NJEA and Garden State, both that applies to them. I mean, and don't get me wrong, NJEA are educators, but the Garden State Equality are not, and that's why. I mean, have you guys noticed? Every time there's something to do with, you know, when we become a sanctuary state for mutilating children, who's right next to the governor? Garden State Equality.
Right.
Yep.
So I mean, it's just really out there for everyone to see. And you know, like you said, I'm really glad that we're having these podcasts and we're exposing this to people. Because I think, you know, there's a lot of parents who really, unfortunately, don't believe this is going on.
Where can we Mark the website? Do you want to give?
Yeah, we're gonna post the website.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll post it and everything. What's the next book you would like to highlight?
Want to do
What
Fun
was the-
Home, Christina?
Or genderqueer. Genderqueer is the one that I formally challenged. And that's another one. To be honest, what should happen is everybody should go and check out that author's Instagram, Maya Kababi. There is something significantly up there. There are photos with poems talking about my sibling, come lay with me, bring your partner, I mean, this is not, this is not an author that people should just say, you know what, it's a memoir. Let's hear what she has to say, which is exactly what was said to me to keep the genderqueer in there when I challenged.
Right.
I don't, and I've said this multiple times, I don't really care what else is in a book. if it's wonderful in 50 pages, if one of those pages has a female sucking a strap on another female, it doesn't belong in the school.
Right.
Bottom line. But then honestly, on top of that, and I did
Want
use
to
this
just
challenge
put what
form
you're
as
talking
well.
about?
It really is dangerous because even if you take the sexually explicit stuff out of it, she talks about simply going to the gynecologist, which is something that is vital to women's health. And she portrays it in such a negative, dangerous light, like with pictures of someone stabbing her through the stomach. And it would scare, and this is an age in high school where you're coming up on needing those appointments. And it's terrifying. If I had read that, because every girl's nervous about it, let's be honest. If I had read that book, I never would have gone to that doctor. It's just dangerous. The book is dangerous.
Well, I mean, wouldn't you say that's what they're all about, confusing children?
Yeah.
And you know what? Actually, to speak about what we spoke on at the March 6th board meeting that we are getting sued for, I specifically read an excerpt and I said to the administration and the Board of Ed, I said, I will personally help you pick out more. If 170 LGBTQ books aren't enough for you, I will help you pick out more wholesome LGBTQ books if it's going to eliminate this content. And they don't care. They don't want it. The whole reality that people need to start grasping is they don't care about your children.
Right.
They don't.
It's not about education. It really isn't.
It's about indoctrination.
It's not about education.
But once again, right, there's so much time being wasted on this type of material and curriculum, but there's no conversation. I know, not to sound repetitive, but we keep talking about the learning loss. Like, how are we going to get these children caught up? I mean, lowering standards isn't the solution to the problem. It's devoting more time to reading, math, science, things to get them caught up. I mean, that's the argument I want to hear. I want to hear the argument, the librarian arguing with the parent. Well, you're about spending more time reading,
right?
Not about let's sue to sue parents over some BS defamation because they're exposing books that shouldn't be in a school.
Well, what about this though? What about any school official? I mean, the fact that it comes down, you always expect the parents to rise up and speak up for their child. But where's some of these school officials that say, "Whoa, wait a second. You know what I mean? I'm going to put my foot down. This stuff is unacceptable. It doesn't teach us about, like I always say, the STEM core curriculum stuff. And where's the benefit? Where's the history in this stuff showing? At some other point in time that this is beneficial to the
Well,
child.
so here's one thing we could say about superintendents at their 200,000 plus. The reality of it is they don't have the intestinal fortitude to stand up to stuff like this.
No.
So. We have to start asking now. I mean,
well, and that's just a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. And I think that's where parents are at too, because there's not one parent that I have talked to that in connection in my life that says this is okay, whether I'm at a sports field. At one point, a parent came up to me and said, wait a second, I'm overhearing you and I'm in the LGBTQ community. And I said, come on, let's have a conversation. Let me talk to you about what's being provided in schools. And by the end of the conversation, she said, I agree 100% with you. So the reality is these people agree with us. They're afraid to speak up though. People are so afraid of labels for so many reasons. They're afraid to lose their jobs. They're afraid to be labeled in the community because a lot of the people working in the community are also living in the community. Right. So
but you don't bite the hand that feeds you, so to speak.
Yeah, but you know what? A school is supposed to be a place for no race.
Right.
Everybody's equal.
Not
identifying somebody through LGBTQ or anything else. Allow children to be children and to enjoy the experience.
Right.
I mean, the last episode we discussed about the boys dressing as girls going in the locker room and the bathroom. I mean, when did any parent sign that waiver specifically say, "Oh, my daughter has no rights to privacy"? Well, okay, Riley Gaines, a lot of people haven't heard this part of it. When she discussed about the fact that Leah Thomas, the loser who left men's sports because he sucked.
Yeah, he sucked. Yep.
Right. he was a rector. He's in the locker room,
Yeah.
and the NCAA was like,
Yeah.
whatever. You know,
Yeah.
I love all these men now. They're retiring from male sports because they suck, and so they have to. You know, now we're girls. Let's go try to win.
Well, then you got the girlfriend that was locked up in
You
Russia.
know,
She's opening her big mouth too about this stuff.
It's just amazing. You know, we're all parents, and I can tell you, I am really passionate about that. Nothing pisses me off more than these boys going into the girls'
I
bathroom.
mean,
and the
Mark,
locker
where's
room.
the feminists? Where are the feminists
Right,
now?
Right.
You're
Where are
right.
the
Where's the Me
feminists?
Too movement?
Yep.
You're right.
Where's the Me Too movement? Where are all the strong women standing up for other women? Where are the women as every big advertising campaign is now going to biological men? Why are they allowed to take our jobs now?
Right. I agree with you. You know, you have Anheuser-Busch who's learning the hard way.
Oh, yes, they are.
You know, you have a man on there that acts like he's a woman. It's unbelievable. I'm really glad it backfired on him because you're right. You have taking women's jobs, right?
Well, not even that. You bring up
How about you have a male running around with a sports bra,
right,
telling you what it's like to be a woman? It's just
well, Anheuser-Busch
So
is a great
disrespectful
example.
to us, it really is.
right.
Yeah.
As women, how do you feel about that with the sports bra?
It's so disrespectful. It is,
And it's
because
infuriating.
here's the double standard that I can't stand. I
Right.
would never
Yeah,
know.
and you two are victims of selective enforcement.
Yeah.
You know, they would love you if you were leading this hard charge in support of it. I mean, God,
Yeah.
you would be on CNN. You'd be
Front
on
page of the New York Times.
all the left wing kook media be loving you.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
But now, since let's face it, it's common sense. The fact that we need to have this conversation
It's crazy.
is the problem.
Well,
Yeah.
as I was just going to say, Anheuser-Busch is a great example that, if that's a small sample of the majority of the people out there don't want this. Parents don't want this crap. They don't want it. Anheuser's taking a big hit on here. They are only catering to such a small percentage of the population. As a matter of fact, I didn't know that, the transgender issue was such a problem until the government told us it was a problem. Since when was a boy going into a girl's bathroom or as such an issue? I mean, all of a sudden it falls onto our laps, and now it's an issue because why? They say it is. No, it's a pandering to a group of an organization, and we all know why that is. And was this an issue before in Roxbury? Did you guys have any issue with transgender issues or sex or any of this stuff beforehand?
No, but
No,
I mean, really, this is, once Big Pharma got involved, it's a money-making
Of course,
business,
yep.
this whole transgender push. And I think it's something like a 4,000% increase in transgender youth. It's atrocious. I mean, it's heartbreaking to know
Little pills.
that
It's
this
just
is happening to kids. And I mean, I say this all the time. I was a tomboy, and I love my Gays Against Groomers sweatshirt that says "Save the Tomboys," because that's what needs to happen. Like, it's really, really, really dangerous what's happening, especially to young girls right now.
So,
Because
Christine, is that basically for Christian too? Do you feel that's the message? If you're a tomboy, you should transition? I mean, is that what they want?
The Boston Children's Hospital flat out said, they said something about 2 or 3-year-olds, if they like the opposite color, if girls like blue, if girls like playing with certain toys, they're probably born in the wrong body, and we can help you. No.
It literally infuriates me as a mental health expert. We know that Erickson's psychosocial stages of development tell us that kids go through a stage of development called identity versus confusion. So they're confused because they're going through puberty and they have all these hormones. And so now we're telling them during that most confusing stage in their life, when they need unconditional positive regard and they need the adults in their lives to say, you are perfect the way you are, and this is normal that you're uncomfortable in your body, because your body's changing and your mind's changing, and you're going to grow into it, and it's going to be okay. Because the majority of kids that experience what we call gender dysphoria, it evens out after puberty. These kids aren't given a chance. They're told. How many kids struggle with identity issues? You don't know who you want to be. Then you're on social media getting made fun of when you put yourself out there. So these kids are now retracting and finding a community that accepts them, and they're being preyed upon.
I believe the statistic is like 90% if given the wait and see approach after puberty, are far more comfortable. They just
Right,
settle into
and then-
their bodies.
right.
During your research, would you say that now we have TikTok? I mean, TikTok is even making it worse now.
Of course, of
Yeah,
course.
and why do you think they're doing all this? Why do you think they have Dylan Mulvaney jumping around, tucked in a Nike sports bra, saying how wonderful it is to be a woman? Come on.
And
That
he's so
biological man
disrespectful.
knows
Yeah.
nothing about
Yep.
being a woman.
It's so disrespectful. It's taking the worst, like the worst misconceptions of being a woman and parading it around.
It's
And it
sad, though,
also,
too. Yeah,
go ahead. I was just going to say, it marginalizes the kids that truly, there are a tiny, tiny percentage of kids that do really have gender dysphoria and struggle in their own skin. And those poor kids now are being outed.
It waters it down. It waters it down. That's what it
Yeah.
does.
Yeah.
And now, like, everybody's jumping on the train, no matter what mental health issue you have or any way
Right.
you feel uncomfortable, just change genders and it'll be fine.
Those
that's not the
children are going to
reality.
slip through the cracks now. That's what's going to happen there. It
Right.
really is. And as a parent, I got to say, it is harder and harder now to keep up, to keep an eye on what your child is doing, what social media there, because it's everywhere you turn. It's in academia, it's in entertainment and Hollywood, it's in the music industry, it's everywhere you turn. And it's like it's a full-time job just keeping up what what kind of content they're watching and listening to. It really is.
Well, it's just to prove our point here. The fact that they're fighting tooth and nail not to release the manifesto from the shooter down in Memphis, the transgender dropped the Catholic school. I mean, they're trying so hard not to release that. It's just unbelievable.
I'm very curious to know. Let's get into this. If you had a message for parents in other districts throughout the country that have come across similar issues that you guys have found books in their library that are completely inappropriate, whatever the issue may be, what advice do you have for those parents? What advice do you have? How did you guys get started to get to where you guys are today? I mean, I'm not saying get lawsuits. You guys are fighters. You guys are actual,
but how to get involved, like and form a group up like you did.
Right. And know how to, request information, what we call Oprah requests. What kind of advice do you have for other parents out there that
I would say
for the most part, everything you would need is on your district website. Some districts are easier to navigate than others, but every district has an online database for their library, and every district should have a search engine up top, a search bar. And you can type in Oprah, because ours, for example, is buried in the district. It took me a long time to find it. But if you type in Oprah, you should see an Oprah request form. And that's really valuable. You send that to the business administrator, at least in our town. It might be the same everywhere. And you have to be very specific with time and topic. And that's really the basis. If you could, anybody can do that. And other than that, my advice is just to talk to people, because people don't realize what's happening.
Yeah, I want to touch on that piece. I think that we need to go back to what we were taught growing up, that you don't have to care what other people think of you. If you know that you're on the right side of the truth, speak up. Right. And I know that's easier said than done, but how are we going to be effective role models for our children if we can't stand up for what we feel is right?
Right.
So I would say start engaging people close to you initially, and then talk to people when you're at the baseball field. People value sports so much nowadays, right? Parents are at every travel game, this, that. Talk it up. Say, do you know what's going on in the world? What do you think about our town? What's going on? Join. It could be a select few that they then tell 5 of their closest friends, and you build an army, as we did. You are not what they call you. So they can call us anti-LGBTQ. They could call us, we are now book burning Nazis. It doesn't make it true. So we really could care less what titles they throw at us. And I'm trying to teach my kids the same thing. I want you to always stand up and speak out when something's wrong.
Right. And I want to know your opinion real quick about, the elected officials and the government side of this.
Yes.
Knowing who your elected officials are, a lot of times on the Board of Ed races, Mark, the Board of Ed, depending on your district or your where you're from, sometimes they're on the back of the ballot. They don't, majority of your tax dollars go to the Board of Education. They don't go to the municipal side of it. They go to the education part of it. You don't need to have children necessarily in the school districts to have a say in the matter, to have, hey, I don't have any kids. What's the point? Everybody, there is a major point to it. And I think, would you agree that knowing who these people are that sit up on the Board of Education, who are in charge, who the superintendent answers to, knowing who the superintendent is just as important as anything else, correct?
It's
Right.
vital.
Right.
You will not do anything really. I mean, as much as we're fighting, you'll get nothing accomplished if you don't get the right people elected in there.
Correct.
And I would
Correct.
also say any correspondence, make sure you are emailing so you have a paper trail.
Yep.
Email and Oprah.
Yep.
And you can Oprah request you could actually Oprah request, if I'm not mistaken, Mark, communication between, let's say, the board president and the superintendent, right? Correct.
Yeah, well, that's vital. You have to Oprah request those things.
Yeah.
So you can get the public has the right to access that information if it's done over the district's website or emails. So
Listen, I just want to get your quick opinion on something that's recently happening. The Senator Joe Vitale for the 19th district, he's sponsoring a bill that permits minors 13 years of age and older to consent to behavioral health care services. I'll give you a little background on Joe Vitale. He's he makes signs for a living. Right, the same guy who, he always wants to give medical advice. And
wants to use your
he wants
children.
to vaccinate your children. I mean, what's your opinion on that?
So my opinion on that is, and this could probably be a whole nother podcast, so I won't go that far into it, but there's a very big push for community schools, which is where basically all the needs of your child are met through school and you don't really need to be notified. So if they can make that happen, a bill like that, in my opinion, is just to make it easier to essentially give your kids therapy through school. And let's be honest, most therapists are pushing the transgender stuff.
This is called community school. Is that what you said? Community school?
Yeah.
So basically what happens.
It's now getting bigger and bigger. I mean, I tried to warn our Board of Ed months ago because I saw in the superintendent's newsletter that they were pushing it. And now I just saw, I think it was on a mainstream CNN or MSNBC talking about community schools. It's where they bring other organizations into the school. They'll tell you it's eye checkups and dental checkups. And in reality, it's counseling and Planned Parenthood. And it's happening in California already. And I mean, let's be honest, as you say, evil Governor Murphy has already said he wants to make us the California of the East Coast.
Well, listen, I could even tell you this, in California, they push bills that will almost decriminalize pedophilia.
Yep. Well, that's just it. And that's what I was going to touch on. So along with what Christina's saying, they're also trying to move the age of consent for everything down. Younger.
I've seen that for years. Yeah.
Think about it. If children can consent to a double mastectomy at 12 years old,
absolutely.
What else can they consent to?
100%.
So then it goes right along with, and people still look at us like we're crazy, but this is the fact. If people are pushing this agenda, and there is that minor attracted persons population that we're being told, oh, they're not bad people. Oh, it's just sexual preference.
That's definitely coming. It's definitely coming.
And then they're going to argue that kids can consent to sex at a young age.
It's only a matter of time. That's part of their end. That's not their end game, but that's part of their end game right there. That's really what it is.
Yeah. Yep.
It's disturbing, Mark. It really, I mean, I don't even know what to say on that. I mean, that is just absolutely.
Well, we're going to have you back to do a whole nother episode on these schools, these community schools.
Absolutely.
I mean, the other thing that I don't think people in New Jersey understand, like what would be happening in public schools, you could send your 14-year-old freshman to school one day. They could go to a counselor and say, you know what, I had unprotected sex last night with somebody with AIDS. They can take your child to the nearest emergency room or clinic to get PEP. PEP is a pill that then they give you and say, oh, you won't develop AIDS. They could provide that medical care, then bring your child back to school and send them home without you even knowing.
That is absolute. I mean, if that doesn't infuriate you as a parent, I don't know what will. I mean,
that's their goal, right? To circumvent parental guidance.
And they want division. They want the nuclear family to be destroyed here. That's what they really want too. So let's be honest. But listen, I thank you guys so much, Mark. I mean,
yeah, thanks so much for coming. I appreciate it.
You guys keep the fight going. Keep us posted. We would love to bring you back on, get an update. sometime in the near future. And you know what? Just stand your ground. Remember, the squeaky wheel does get the grease, but there is also strength in numbers. Keep fighting. The other side, I'll say this: the other side does not stop. They don't stop. It doesn't matter. They're all linked into chain. They all have an agenda. They're all moving in the same direction, and it's important that parents like yourself, at least try to stop, slow it down and do what you can to eliminate it, in my opinion, because the other side won't stop. It's only going to get worse from here.
It is. And one last final piece of advice, you have to get involved. As much as people say they hate politics, they don't want to get involved, because I'm one of them. You have to get behind the candidates that are supporting parental rights, because it's not all of them.
The rules haven't changed here. This is not the same old politics anymore. Nope. They've changed the game of politics. It is now about honestly protecting children. That's what it's about now. So the rules have changed. Everybody should get behind the candididates. It's really not about politics. You know what I mean?
You got to pay close attention to who's standing up and not afraid to say, absolutely not. We're not going to tolerate this, because those are the people we want in Trenton advocating for our kids.
Absolutely. And in your local districts as well. Right. So absolutely. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We'll be in touch. And Mark, real quick, we'll wrap it up right now.
Yeah. Well, my last call is going to be real simple.
Right.
What we just heard here from Kristen and Christina really should alarm people out there, because they're not being properly represented. The school board members, okay, all you school board members out there, because we're going to start exposing you. You are not elected to represent Garden State Equality, the NJEA, the superintendent, or some librarian, or anyone else for that matter. Your job is to stand up for the children, the parents, and represent the taxpayers. Okay? The fact that that's not being done, these people have no business serving. We talked about elected officials. Elected officials right now who are turning a blind eye to the fact that children are being targeted have no business being elected officials. Okay? You can't stand up for a child. Get the hell out of office. Okay? Because we have people in Trenton that are out and out cowards. The speaker, Craig Coughlin, I mean, clearly his balls have been snipped. Because he sits there and say a goddamn word as radical curriculum after curriculum gets forced down children's throats. Okay, and at that age, they don't know what's going on, because you just heard it. You heard from Kristen and Christina how confused children are at that age. So anything, they're just going to sit back and just think this is all part of the learning process. Right. And there's no representation. No disrespect to Free Willy, okay? Yep. The Republicans that are worried about having hearings on the whales.
There's a war in education.
Okay? Right. Children deserve your attention first.
Absolutely.
This state is under siege by evil Phil Murphy and his radical people. They don't care about what's right. It's about their identity politics. Obviously, they don't care about science, because they try to say a boy is a girl. It's about political science. And everybody out there needs to get their asses out and vote, because that's the only way to stop this and send a message, because that's all they're concerned about.
And I'll say this, I'll add one thing, and to go after parents who are protecting and standing up for their child, you're a bunch of political thugs. That's sure, you're thugs, all right? To go after and target parents, send lawsuits out there because they're standing up for their child and they don't want this pornographic, and that's what it is. This is pornographic comic strips. That's what they are. And it's only going to get worse from here. Only getting worse. And for you elected officials out there who say nothing and only care about getting reelected, who have done nothing and want to get reelected on doing nothing, all right, you're a bunch of cowards. History will show, all right, that if you're not standing up for the children, not defending a child, all right, you're not going to be remembered. All right, you're not going to be remembered. You're going to be remembered as part of the problem, and that's what they are. And they need to go. They all need to go, in my humble opinion. And I think these two women here that have done an incredible job. Who are patriots. They are, honestly, I don't care if it's just them two and nobody else. They're patriots. Mark and I stand behind you. And on this show, we're going to continue exposing what's going on around this state and these districts, Mark. And that's it. That's all I have to really say.
Yep.
So until next time, we thank everybody. Please share this video. This is important. Please share it around.
Share both episodes of Roxbury. Get it out there. We have to get the message out.
That's it, guys. Until next time, everybody, take care.
Take it easy.